Well, hi there everyone, and welcome back to Feed the Beast Monster, where we are still building this thing. This is our MFFS mining machine, and hopefully this will be the last episode on this one. I know it's been a few episodes long, but I'm having great fun making it. It's a complex little machine, and I hope you're enjoying it too. The entire thing works now. We could actually move it forwards again. I have made up a few extra speed modules which should help it along its way. Can it hold itself with that much? It can. Can it hold itself with that much? It can. That's how many I could make before I used up all my steel. The speed modules really do use up a lot of resources. So let's click you forwards. Ooh, that failed. What failed? Why did that fail? I am confuzzled. There is no reason for that to fail unless this is drawing off too much power now. Ooh, what have I done? Oh, is it because there's the tree in front of it? This should have mined the tree out. Hang on, collection, disintegration. Is this not mining? Yeah, it should have mined that tree. It has mined the tree. Does it need to go one further up? Scale 864 down. Should I scale it a couple up as well, just to make sure? Just when you think that everything is working perfectly, there you go, disintegrate out that, thank you. Can you work now? You can, that's what the problem was. Okay. So I can now pop all of this stuff back in and watch it disintegrate off another layer. So what we need to do, and it is so nice not having to get all that gravel which is just dropping about. What we need to do now is make the brains of the operation. Ooh, that needs turning off. Or the entire thing will move forwards again. So the brains of the operation, what are we going to use for that? Well, you know that I like computer craft, however there is a slight problem with that. If you put a computer down on one of these things, when that machine moves the entire thing forwards, including the computer resets, so computers actually will not work at all, which is a bit annoying. You can create things using wireless redstone. Obviously this is working on a redstone impulse. You couldn't use wired because you'd have to be laying a wire down. There is wireless, but the wireless ones don't work with MFFS either, they pop off. Fortunately though, there is something which does work, so let us go back and make it. Way back when I made the mob trap, I was using the red net cabling. The red net cabling came from... it comes from the same module that one comes from, which is Mine Factory Reloaded. Along with the red net cable, there is also something called a programmable red net controller. It's basically a small sort of computer system. They are, well, they're a little complex, but they're not that difficult. And I can use one of these to set up and make the entire thing work. Hopefully. So, how do you make these? As you can see, they do need a bit of resources. There's diamonds, there's gold, there's lapis redstone, there is a red net controller housing, and there is plastic sheets. So we're going to need a red net controller housing, which just needs glass, sheets, and this sort of stuff. We do not have enough sheets, but I did take the precaution of boiling up some raw plastic from raw rubber, so we should have plenty. So we just need one of those, thank you. And then we should just be able to make one of those. Thank you. So that's a programmable red net controller. That came together really rather easily. Do we also have some red net cable? We do. 11 pieces. Should actually be enough. I still have my blueberry. And a zombie head. Nice. And get rid of that. And we can also get rid of that. So I think that should do us. Right, let us go. Shall I use anything to demonstrate? I could possibly just get a lamp just in case. 82, that's quite a lot actually. Just in case I need something to show if a red net signal is going on and off, in case anything goes wrong. So here we are back here, and now we do actually have something really important to do, because I actually need to know how long it takes after moving for this to completely clear out an area, which means I'm going to have to get a stopwatch out. So I have this phone handy. You will have to imagine me tapping out on it with a stopwatch. So what I'm going to do is set it going when I move, and then time how long it takes to completely mine out an area, because I will need to obviously leave this in one position for that long. So here we go. So let's just have a quick look at this and try not to fall down the hole, which would actually be remarkably easy. You've seen this plenty of times, but the speed module does make it really rather quick. You can see also the nice thing about this is it doesn't have any problems with lava and stuff, which means you don't have to flood it like you would a quarry. It does actually go pretty darned quickly. That is looking like it is taking... We're up to half a minute. That one last bit fell down the bottom. But so, say 40 seconds will give it plenty of time. I'd rather give it a little bit of extra leeway than run it right on the edge, because I always think if you run something right on the edge, that's when things go wrong and the entire thing breaks. Okay, so actually, can we just shut you off because you are noisy? It is still going to be noisy, isn't it? So the programmable ResNet controller, which I am going to pop down here, here or here. It might just as well go right in the middle, mightn't it? Just like that. Nicely surrounded by the Fortron. So this is the programmable ResNet controller. If you open it up, you can see it is basically a load of logic, which is obviously great fun, but I'm just going to do exactly what's needed to set up a timer. What I obviously need to do is set up some sort of timer which will output to that side, output to that side, and output, or possibly even just keep that one running. So how am I going to do that? Well, timers. There is only one timer in all these pages. It is right at the bottom. It is the wave timer, the square wave. All of these pages have an input and an output. What I am going to do is set the period up to 10. That is 10 ticks. What that will do is it will create a timer which will be off for 10 ticks and on for 10 ticks. And if you know Minecraft, you might know that 1 second is 20 ticks. I could output that to white, but I'm not going to. I'm actually going to output this to a variable. If you want more detail on how this sort of things work, I do have a tutorial out on it. I'll put a link in the description. A tutorial on exactly how to do this, actually. That outputs to variable 1. If we go on to the next page, you can see there's 6 pages. On the next page, I'm going to add a counter. Counters count. They count up to whatever number you want to count to. And they will increase when they receive a redstone signal. If I set this to variable 1, it will be counting up every time that timer ticks. Makes sense? So I've got something now which is counting up in seconds. The pre is the number of seconds it's going to count up to. It takes 40 seconds to actually chop through the entire thing. Therefore, I'm actually going to up that all the way to 50 seconds just to allow those few seconds for this entire thing to move forwards. It is a bit overkill, but that doesn't matter. You have 2 outputs, Q and V. Q will fire every 50 seconds now because that's what I've set it to, but V is the one we want because that will actually hold the value in the timer. I'm going to set that to variable 2. On to the next page where we will actually handle what we want. So what we actually want is something which is going to switch on according to this timer, and this is where we have a slight problem, because in Sphax how shall I put this, the resource pack is slightly messed up with this. I will show you in a second. I'm just going to get rid of these, pop that down, and I am now going to actually pop this glowstone illuminator down just like that. I don't want this to connect to this face, so can I turn it off from that face? I can. I'm simply going to set this to an equals. When variable 2, which is our timer, is equal to, let's say, 2 seconds, I want to do an output. The problem is there are 6 outputs on this thing: up, down, left, right, front, back, all of these things. And on Sphax, you can't see which one it's set to. So, oh, that is the right one. I just saw that flash, I'm sure I did. I'm now going to have to briefly wait a few seconds just to make sure, but I'm pretty happy that was actually the right one. I will also put one on this side and set this to orange. Obviously 50 seconds is a very long time. What I will actually do, let's go on to the next page and add in another equals. This will also work on variable 2, but this one will move at, say, 10 seconds. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. So this counter will count up to 50 over 50 seconds. On the second, it's going to send a pulse out on white. I'm going to feed it into that, which will move the entire thing forwards. On the 10th second, which is on the next page, I'm going to send it out that way into that machine, which will move that forwards, and that's how I'm going to inch this thing forwards over 50 seconds. I hope that makes sense. So I think it was on that one, and what I'm going to actually do is just pull this right down to 10 seconds to make sure I've got it set to the right output, because Sphax is a bit of a mess here. I could just change the resource pack, but that's almost more of a pain, to be honest. So is this working? Is this working? That one is coming on. That one should come on a few seconds later. It won't, because it's set to 10, of course, which will never be reached. So just set that to 7. So, quickly, this one should come on, that one's coming on, so these are set to the right numbers. I've just memorised which one is the back, basically. If you have this problem, you can either do this or just change your resource pack to basic, in which case where you see this, it will say input, output, up, down, left, right and back, basically. So we pop this out. Actually, I need to set this back up to 70, otherwise it will run 70 up to 50 even, otherwise it will run too fast. What we should now see, if we plug these all in, plug this into here and set it to orange, plug this into here and set it to white. That does not want to connect to that though. There we go. Now what should happen is at some point this is going to hit 3 and move this forwards, and then hit 7 or whatever I set it to. I probably do want this up to 10 actually, just to make sure it never interferes, and move the entire thing forwards. We can also put this back on full time. There we go, it's just picked out, it needs to move forwards. This will pick up and move that one forwards in a few seconds. There it goes. And this will dig out. By the time, oh, do not fall down. Hopefully by the time this has dug all the way out, or after this has dug all the way out, perhaps I should say, it will detect that. It won't detect anything. This will have dug out before it moves again, is what I'm trying to say. It looks like it's doing pretty well. If it doesn't, I'll just up the time slightly. Yep, it has dug out. It looks like there's a few seconds over, which will be fine. Quite a few seconds over, actually. It can work on less by the looks of it. Quite a bit less, but there it goes, it's moved forwards. That's going to start digging out the next line. and that will be picked up and moved forwards. There it goes. Perfect. So the one very last thing that we need, and we're going to leave this, which might let it unchunk load, but say la vie, is a chunk loader, the chicken chunks chunk loader, which is my obvious favourite because that's the one I use all the time. So let's just rush on back here. The nice thing about the design is it doesn't matter if that programmable RedNet controller starts or stops in the wrong place, because that second one won't move anything because there will be nothing there. If that makes sense. The block that doesn't get moved is one square back, so if the wrong one fires first, there just won't be anything there to move, so it can't desynchronize or move the wrong thing. Chicken chunks chunk loader. It is very easy, it is just these things. We might have everything but not the enchanting table. I hope we have a book. We don't have a book. That will be slightly problematic. It won't, because we do have leather in, thank goodness for that. I really need to work on automating cows soon. And there we go, a chicken chunks chunk loader. Let's take this back and set this up. You can see, by the way, that we are not actually really draining any energy because we are making so lot. It does require a decent amount of energy, but we are just producing so darned much it doesn't really make much odds. Has this thing been working okay without the chunk loader? It looks like it has. So let's just hop up here. The chunk loader can go mid-back, I guess. Pop it down there. Show lasers. What we want to make sure is that it is loading up a plenty big enough chunk radius, which it is, because we need it to load up the chunk in front of it and the chunk behind it. That is the wrong key. Oh, I've hit that key. So that is in this chunk, so this is loading the chunk in front of it, I think. Have I switched the lasers off or something? Show lasers, thank you. So it is loading the entire chunk in front of it that it's not in yet, and it is actually loading the entire chunk behind it as well, which is what we want. That means that even if the machine straddles a chunk boundary, the entire machine will still be in a loaded chunk. So that is fine, that is working, and that is the machine. That is plugged into that for no obvious reason, so I shall just get rid of that. And it's moving off again. So as you can see, this should now be digging great big holes to oblivion. And I'm standing at the front of it, not the back, which would be a very silly thing to do. This will now dig out a huge gouge running off forever. You can obviously make it a bit wider, it would quite happily be able to withstand that. It is quite narrow, to be fair. But if you get the timing set up right, this can be down by a few seconds. Then, to be honest, it makes no difference, because the time that you would spend digging out the side parts will be the time that you spend moving forwards. If you get that, there will be a slight save, because it won't be moving forward so often, but it will barely be any, really. So on the whole, I think I am extremely happy with that. That is my little mining machine, my MFFS mining machine, or MFFS. I will not have actually learnt to say that before I have finished the episodes on it. So thank you very much for watching. Do like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Next time we will be moving on to something slightly different, and that is still over by a few seconds, isn't it? It can be fine-tuned. Not many seconds now, about 5 or so. Yes, we'll move on to something a bit different for next time. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.